Welcome everybody who is here and signing in. We're going to give it 1 minute because it actually takes a minute to let all of you guys in from the waiting room. So I'm just going to hold on before we get started for just a minute. But thank you for signing in for our first student and recent grad panel to talk about experiential learning. So we've got a number of people here today that are going to be able to speak about their experiences for the Arts Work Experience program, through community service learning, and even a little bit about study abroad. So thank you everybody for tuning in today, and I hope you're excited to be starting classes. I know it's not the start to the term that anyone was hoping for or expecting when you thought about university starting this year for you. But this is what we're facing, and I know that it's going to be a great year nonetheless. So, okay, I think we've kind of settled on our number here, so we'll get started. Thank you everybody for tuning in. It is our student and recent grad panel on experiential learning. So that covers arts work experience, community service learning, and study abroad. And we have a wonderful panel here today, and I'll get everybody to introduce themselves, and then we'll start getting into our questions. What I would say for everybody listening, we've got a number of questions that I've prepared in advance for our panelists to answer. However, I really encourage you to type your questions into the Q&A function at the bottom. We'll answer those questions live. Got Nathaniel here who's going to help me with the chat feature. So the chat feature is not available for you guys to be writing in, but we can write in on our end. So we'll be able to put in some websites and links if there's anything that we want to share with you that way. So I will get Emma, then Jocelynn, then Zach, then Brie, then Nathaniel, then Taylor.
Hi, my name is Emma. I am a current U of A student and I am taking media studies. I had a work experience placement with the Faculty of Arts the past year.
My name is Jocelynn Proulx. I'm going into my 4th year of criminology with a specialization in Native Studies. I have completed the Arts Work Experience certificate. So with that, I've done 12 months of work with Indigenous Services Canada in communications, 4 months of work with the Impact Assessment Agency in Edmonton, and on top of that, I did 4-month work term with the Environment and Climate Change Canada in Indigenous engagement on climate change.
Hi everybody, my name is Zach. I'm a 5th year political science major. I just also enrolled in the honors program. In terms of arts work experience in CSL, I've done 8 months of arts work experience. I did a placement with the Bank of Montreal, and I also did a 4-month placement with the national government at the Canada Border Services Agency. And yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Brie. My pronouns are she, her. I am going into my 4th year studying political science at the U of A in the honors program. And I did a 12-month work placement through Arts Work Experience this past year, actually working for the Faculty of Arts doing student engagement for international students.
Hello everyone, my name is Nathaniel. I'm a 4th year Econ and Poli-Sci double major. I'm also currently on work term with the Faculty of Arts. I'm the student, so I basically do student recruitment and engagement.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor Joseph. I'm the Student Services Assistant with the Faculty of Arts Undergraduate Student Services Office. I'm a proud U of A alumni. I graduated in November 2019 with my BA in Sociology. I also did a 12-month work term with the Faculty of Arts in 2017, and I have studied abroad in both Italy and Hong Kong.
Awesome. Okay. And my name is Joanna Manchur. My current role is the Student Engagement and Communications Specialist for the Faculty of Arts. And I'm also a proud arts grad. I graduated a while back with a degree honors drama from here at the U of A. All right, guys, let's get into a few questions. So I'm going to start with just sort of a broad general run, and I'll get each of you to answer. And we'll just go in the same order that we went for the introductions. So your experience with arts work experience, CSL, study abroad, whatever it is that you did, now that you're done it, was it what you expected it to be? Like, before you started? What did you expect, and then how was it different, or how was it the same?
I think I'm starting. So I feel like I didn't really have I didn't have a ton of understanding of what the role was when I started. I worked in student engagement and recruitment, and I didn't expect to be interacting with students as directly as I was. I learned a lot about email etiquette. I learned a lot about office etiquette that I didn't think I would. That's not something that I expected I would learn from my role, but I did. Yeah, I would say the main thing was office etiquette, and that's something you can't really learn through a course. So that's my answer.
So I joined Arts Work Experience because I was having trouble finding good paying summer jobs, and co-op I thought was a way to get something that's more than 15 bucks an hour. But when I got into my work terms, it was so much more than that. I never, all of my family has been working in oil and gas, so I didn't have any experience of knowing anyone that worked in the public service, never mind in an office. It was a really scary experience for me, and it opened my eyes up to a whole new career path that I never would have considered. And also, these work experience taught me that at the end of the day, what your major is doesn't really matter. It's how you can apply what you learned in school and your work ethic.
I'll go ahead and step in. Yes, one thing I forgot to mention in my introduction is that I completed a CSL component in a class, and that was a four month basically component that we did. I worked with the Access Outreach team right here on campus, and in regards to whether or not this is something that was it what I expected after I was done, I would say for both CSL and for Arts Work Experience, I would say half yes and half no. In terms of Arts Work Experience, generally what students might expect is you're going to go get a job and you're going to get work experience, and that's going to be it. What actually ends up happening is you have a work coordinator that works with you. You have to complete modules that teach you different things, and you have to complete assignments as well. And you also have to complete two evaluations. So you do a self-evaluation at the beginning and a self-evaluation at the end, and your employer does a self-evaluation at the beginning and end as well. These are something that you can take with you into other work that you go to get. So it's very, very good. For every placement, you're going to have really formalized references that are already kind of mandated through the University of Alberta. And so that's really good. And then with CSL, volunteering is generally what people think when they think of CSL, but it wasn't all that. You also have to do coursework, and you also have to complete assignments. You get to learn a lot more about what community service learning is as a whole, because it is not just volunteer work. And so, yeah, I'd say there's a lot to it. And yeah, it's a fun ride in both programs.
For myself, I think kind of similarly to Emma, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I didn't really have like a lot of expectations for it. I just wanted to get some work experience. I didn't really have a lot of work experience before starting with AW. So it was just kind of an opportunity of something that aligned with my interests and that I felt like would teach me a lot. And it definitely did teach me a lot. I think yeah, one of the biggest things that I got from it is just kind of that confidence of moving from being in courses and just interacting with peers and your professors to actually like being in a work environment and interacting with supervisors and people you're trying to coordinate events with and those sorts of things, and feeling like you can take on a lot of responsibility in that way. So I think the biggest thing that I gained from it that I didn't necessarily like expect going into it was just that confidence interacting with people who aren't just my peers, and feeling similar to how Jocelynn said, like no matter kind of what you're specializing in, being able to like apply the skills that you've learned is really valuable. And yeah, I think Arts Work Experience definitely helped me with realizing the ways I can apply those skills.
Yeah, I think I agree with everyone's answers up to this point. I think for me, one thing I didn't expect to learn was just how much of the industry you're going to find out. For me, it was the post-secondary industry. So I guess as a student, I didn't really know the backings and I guess the decisions that were being made behind the quote unquote curtain. And having that information now, it honestly, I think will change the way I go back to school. So now applying it to industries in general, I think as an outsider, you only can imagine what is out there, but having experienced it and understanding the decisions that are made within the industry will really educate you. And like Zach, I also did take a CSL class. And for me, it's for CSL specifically, I think for me, it was direct classroom and community interaction. So something that I'd be learning in the classroom on my Wednesday night class would directly apply to my service learning opportunity on the Saturday. So for me, I think it was a great way to parallel my education and my service learning experience.
I know everyone's talked about arts work experience and certificates, so I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk about studying abroad. The value in studying abroad is really, there is so much value in it. It really does expand your horizons, and internationalizing your degree has always been like such a core component of what I wanted my degree to embody. So being able to study abroad, being able to immerse yourself in different cultures, being able to understand and learn about intercultural communication, and really just putting yourself in maybe awkward situations or new situations, something that's going to challenge you as a person, as a student, as a young scholar. And so I would say, like, with studying abroad, it just really impacted me and probably so many other people in such positive ways. And it really challenges you to grow as a person, which obviously we all want to do.
All right, so we've got a couple of questions coming into the Q&A already. And before I get to these questions, I'm going to get Nathaniel to pop in the websites for CSL and Arts Work Experience and Study Abroad into the chat. So the website really does cover all of sort of the logistics in terms of application deadlines, timing, all the different options and different ways you can do things. For example, you've heard a few of the panelists already talk about, you know, they've done 4 months placements or 8-month placements or year-long placements, things like that. So there are different options in terms of how you participate in these different opportunities. You know, study abroad, there's so many different options. So really the website is going to give you a good first introduction. So one of the questions is it hard to apply for arts work experience for economics first year student? So what I will say about arts work experience is that you need to have a minimum amount of course credit completed already. And the idea being that you want to take some stuff, get a little bit of university education under your belt, perhaps have a few ideas of what you want to do for a career, or alternatively, I know Emma and I chatted about this quite a bit. Sometimes you're not even quite sure what you want. And so you want to test things out to try to figure out what it is you want for a career. So the idea being that arts work experience happens in the middle of your degree and not at the start or the end. It falls in the middle in some way. But Nathaniel, you're an econ student, so why don't you answer that question? And then maybe let's get Jocelynn to answer that too. So is it hard to apply to arts work experience?
I would say no, like not at all. It's pretty basic in terms of doing it. I think the only thing that was required of me prior to applying was submitting a letter of intent, submitting my resume and my transcript. I think you would have to have a competitive average, which I think is a 2.3 or a C+ average within the last, I think, 30 credits. Maybe the other panelists can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll put that in the chat as well. And in terms of like being an economics major, there's lots of, we use a website called Campus Bridge, and all the work terms are posted on there. And there's, I would say, a lot of options for a lot of different majors, but they're specifically speaking for economics, there's quite a few finance jobs or econ analysis jobs and things like that. So I think there really is something for everyone on there.
Yeah, from my experience, it was not difficult to be a part of the program. It's a very straightforward process. You do have to have a minimum of 30 credits, if I do remember correctly. So you have to be completely done 5 classes in first and second semester of your first year before you can apply. But that just means you just have to wait till your second year to do co-op. And yes, just like Nathaniel said, there's a wide variety of positions that you can get, anything from the government, working for CSIS, to working at a bank.
All right, okay. Nathaniel, while we're answering a few more questions, I'm gonna get you to find the website for the requirements for arts work experience and just throw that up, and then I'll get you to go over that really briefly with everybody. All right, let's jump back to Taylor. So the question here is, how was studying abroad? Were they able to set you up in a dorm? If not, how was it living on your own in a new place, new country?
So with my first study abroad experience, I actually participated in the Cortona study abroad program. So Cortona is very unique. It's located in Tuscany, Italy. It's actually a U of A satellite campus. So it's one of our more unique programs because I'm still attending the U of A. We have U of A professors, you receive U of A credit. But of course, you still have to go through the whole process with studying abroad. So I did stay in a dorm at the time. I don't know if they still use the same one, but I had a couple of roommates. You do have an option to have either single accommodation or double accommodation. But it could be changing year by year. You'd have to look into that. Once you're all settled in, you meet everyone, you adjust to the time change as well. It's quite a fun experience. It's kind of hard to sum up in such a quick Zoom call, to be honest, but it's very fun. It's very rewarding. It challenges you to really put yourself out there. You're meeting all of these new people all the time, so you really have to I guess, be as friendly as possible and get to know the people that you're rooming with, that you're studying with, that you're traveling with. And you quickly learn to, not necessarily learn, but you just quickly make friends. And soon enough, you'll be going on weekend trips with somebody, or you have a study buddy for the rest of the month. It's a really fun experience. I highly recommend it. It wasn't necessarily similar to my Hong Kong experience. Of course, it was still fun, but it was just different, like accommodations and a different setup. But overall, you meet people from around the world. You meet quite amazing professors as well. When I was in Cortona, I actually took a psychology course, which ended up shifting the entire gear of my degree. I was a drama major at first, and then I was like, nope. I'm gonna do sociology major with a psychology minor because this professor just completely opened my eyes to essentially a whole new area of study and something that really clicked with the way that I view the world. So overall, very rewarding and very fun.
Okay, so Jocelynn, you kind of touched on this in one of your answers already, and I'm going to get Zach, then Emma, and then Jocelynn to reiterate it a little bit. Oh, no, wait, Zach, Emma, and Brie. Sorry, Jocelynn, I'll get Brie to answer, jump in. So there's a couple of questions that are really similar, and it's basically, you know, how is work experience going to benefit me in the future? So yeah, how does it benefit you as a student? And how do you now see that, you know, having gone through it, it will actually benefit you career-wise or personal, you know, like your whole life is more than just studying and a job. So let's talk about that. I'll get, what order did I say? Emma, Zach, and Brie.
So for me, arts work experience gave me the opportunity to live alone for the first time. It was a wage that it was a livable wage. So I was able to have my own apartment, and that was a huge growing opportunity for me. So I know that's not something that's necessarily like outlined in the anywhere on the all website, but that was something that gave me a lot of freedom. It gave me a lot of independence, really allowed me to kind of grow up a little bit. In terms of what does awe do for me now as a student, I would say for me, it gives me the knowledge that I can work in an area that's applicable to what I'm taking in university. After being in awe, I can't foresee myself, working like a coffee shop job, which is, I've worked a lot of customer service and that's really valuable work experience. But after I finished my placement with the Faculty of Arts, I was immediately able to find another job working with a radio station on campus. So I work for CJSR. And that's something that I don't think I would have been able to achieve without having that help from awe. So it just allows me to, even within my degree, without having graduated university, be working in jobs that I'm interested in and that are related to my degree. So.
All right. So yeah, just to echo some of Emma's comments there. The first benefit I'd say in terms of arts work experience is it provides you with a way to make money as a student. And so, for example, if you're going through the summer months and you're not taking classes, what arts work experience provides is you with a database and arts work experience specific job opportunities that you can apply for. And these job opportunities are a little bit, they're more intended for arts work experience students, so they're not generally easy for other people to find. You're not placed at a job specifically. You do have to apply, but you do get some help with some specific listings that you can choose from. And so that's the first benefit. And then in terms of how it can benefit you in your life, in your professional life, there's so many benefits that go into it. So I can speak from my personal experience. I did my first work placement at the Bank of Montreal as a financial services manager intern. And I was working over there for 4 months. I got to see just the ins and outs of the banking world and the banking business. And I was able to make a lot of great connections within Bank of Montreal. So if that's, a career path that I want to pursue after my degree is over, I have tons of people that I can call up and be like, hey, I'd like to come back and work. And I know that they'd be happy to have me back, as they've let me know. And so yeah, it's just really good for networking with my second placement at the government. And then also these placements can turn into longer term work. So after I finished working 4 months full time at the bank, they offered me a part-time position because they knew I'd be going back to school. They're like, hey, do you want to work part-time? You can work whenever you want, pretty much. And so I did that for a little while as well. And then with my other placement at the government, I started with a 4-month placement, but I actually ended up working there the full school year until the next summer. So I worked there for 12 months. And so that's just through making connections. And basically, these are some of the opportunities that are open to you. So yeah, just being able to work is number one, being able to make money as a student where money is tight, and then being able to make connections that can lead to a gainful career experience down the road, I'd say are the two biggest benefits there.
I totally agree with the things that Emma and Zach said. Just to add on to that, for me personally, a really important thing that I found that arts work experience provided for me was the kind of like coaching and mentorship aspect of it. So one of like the really great things is that like throughout you have a work experience coordinator that you can always speak to if you have any questions, if you want any kind of like guidance, or they can really help you out with just like navigating the program and navigating like working in a work environment. For myself, as I said earlier, I didn't have a lot of work experience before my work term. And so the opportunity to be part of arts work experience just gave me so much more confidence in like applying to places. Like I used to be absolutely terrified to even like work on my resume. I was so scared because I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have enough experience, so I felt like there was no point to get started. But even just being with awe, like once you start in the program, you don't have to find a placement right away. You get all these opportunities to get help with your resume, to get help with like how do you interview well. So all of those things, just like the support along the way, I think is one of the most important aspects that I found that really provided me with the confidence to feel like, okay, now that I've had such a positive experience, I can go out into the world, I can apply to other things, and I can take advantage of the resources that I found out about, and also the connections I made in advising me and helping me to figure out kind of what path I want to take.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to get Jocelynn to talk about this a little bit. So we've got a couple questions talking about sort of, you know, the expectations and the time that it takes to do these placements. So one of the things that I will just kind of go over quickly is that, and it's been touched on already, there are 4-month placements, 8 months, 12 months, or 16 months. Now, if you end up doing a total of 12 or 16 months, you can actually get a notation on your parchment saying that you completed or like an internship, a co-op placement. So that's also something to consider. Now, one thing to note, these positions are all full-time positions, which means that you're taking a break from your studies. So oftentimes, Zach had mentioned about, you could get a 4-month placement during the summer when you're typically not at school from May, June, July, August. A lot of our other panelists actually just took a break in their studies. So normally, I think a lot of students are coming into university with a notion that it's 4 years in and out, like you got to get your degree done, you got to start working. So maybe you guys can talk, well, I'll let Jocelynn talk about her placement that took her out of Edmonton, but then also to whoever wants to talk about sort of, do you think doing arts work experience, taking longer to do your degree, was that a bad thing or was it a good thing, or like how did that all turn out? So Jocelynn, can you talk about going to Ottawa first, and then I'll get Taylor and then Emma to chat about sort of the benefits and timing.
Yeah, so for my work terms, I did all 4 of them with the federal government, and by far my favorite part of my university experience is artwork experience and being able to fly to Ottawa and live there. I actually came back last week from Ottawa after living there for 12 months. Yeah, I moved there last September and just came back, and I loved everything about it. I had some interesting experiences with roommates, I'll be honest, but I was able to feel like I was a real person. I was, for the one position with Indigenous Services Canada in the communications, they actually fly you there and back. They'll pay for your flight and baggage. So there is very little incentive to be like, oh, I can't pay for my plane, because they pay for it anyways. And I was able to get a cultural difference because I was actually working on the Quebec side of Ottawa in Gatineau, which gave me experience of French language and the importance of the French language to Canada's identity, on top of learning about Indigenous knowledge.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, I'll get Emma, and then who to say, Emma and Taylor, just to talk about sort of, doing arts work experience extended your total time in school. Talk about that.
I highly recommend it. If you can extend your degree, do it. Obviously, don't take forever. Don't take 10 years. Probably not the best thing to do, but I mean, there's no time limit for you to complete your degree, right? So you can take as long as you need to complete your degree, and I think it's important to understand that university is more than just the coursework that you're taking, and more than just the classes that you're studying. I think in order to really take advantage of your degree, like you really need to have like some sort of experiential learning opportunity, whether it be like something over the course of a week or it's over the course of a year. But I highly recommend extending your degree. There's no rush. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Take your time with it because you're going to enjoy it more. You're going to meet even more people, and you're going to find more opportunities along the way, versus if you're just rushing through it, because you might miss something along it.
Something I have to add on to that, I guess, is just that university is quite different from high school in the way that it is you have to pick and choose for yourself. No one's going to set up your schedule for you. you can ask for help to set up your schedule, but no one's going to give you, this is when you have to have everything done. So it really doesn't have to be 4 years. And for some people that can feel scary. For other people, they like to have that sense of independence and sense of, okay, I can do what I want to do. But I know that I would rather take 8 months out of my degree now than end up in a job, you know, down the road that I'm like, okay, this is not what I wanted to do at all, right? So I'd rather discover that while I'm in my degree than after I've graduated. And also I wanted to add one thing on to the discussion we were having earlier, is that you can also, if you find a job that's applicable to your degree in some way, you can add that on, you can speak to the work experience advisor and you can have them add that to your work experience. Does that make sense? Am I explaining that well? Maybe I'll let Joanna.
Yeah, so basically it's sort of like if you see another job, like it's, to add to what Emma said, university, and I would say the U of A, Edmonton is a very entrepreneurial city, and the U of A embodies that spirit. So the nice part about this is if you want to do something, there are people that are going to support you to help make your dreams come true, as kind of cliche and as cheesy as that might sound coming across. We've had students do placements working with Lego. Like after graduating from the Bachelor of Design program, they go and they get work with Lego, and that's been facilitated through connections that the university has to different companies. We've got alumni working for Nike. We've got, like, you can go and do anything. So there's a number of questions around arts work experience. So one of the things that I'll kind of cover as a, I don't know, just sort of a formality of it. A couple of you guys have talked about this. These are actual job postings. This is not just a like, oh, we're gonna find something for you. Even though you're participating in arts work experience, you're going to be competing for those jobs against your peers, against, sometimes these positions can be open to students from other schools. So they are real jobs. You're paid, you're expected to work full time. Now, being on the employer side and having supervised arts work experience students, what I can say is that knowing that we are hiring interns, there's a little bit more grace given to the learning curve that comes along with what's expected. So we know that when students who are in second year, third year, fourth year that are coming to work in our positions, we know that this is likely your first office job. This is likely your first real, sort of step to a career, and we can appreciate that. So I would say that this is definitely one of those benefits that, you know, Zach talked about how he did a placement and then they were like, okay, you panned out, so now we're going to offer you a job part-time as you continue on. And the world is all about connections. And so getting your foot in the door somewhere and proving that, you know, you might have a couple of the skills that would be expected in a junior entry-level position. And now you get to develop those skills, the other skills that are needed, so that when you do graduate, you can start working in those roles. So to reiterate, there's a couple questions in the Q&A. So is there a specific year that we have to apply in AW? What year did all of you guys apply? Because basically the answer is no. You just need to complete your first year and then you have to do it before you finish. So there's really a lot of room to when you can apply. So yeah, I'll get all you guys to answer that. And can maybe you guys talk about what it was like actually sorting through some of the job postings and, you know, talk about, did you apply to lots of different postings? Like how many interviews you guys went on, things like that. Whoever wants to speak first, just jump.
I think I applied in my third year, at the end of my third year. And I wasn't aware of arts work experience until my third year. So I kind of jumped on it a little bit later. It doesn't mean that it's late if you're doing it at the end of your third year, but just because I had already gone through a full course load, I was pretty close to completing my degree by the time I applied. So I kind of snuck it in there right at the right time. When I applied, I actually only applied for one job. So I got I got pretty lucky. I'll be honest, I don't think it's very common, but I mean, who knows, right? You could find this dream job and this is exactly the internship experience that you wanted. And that's the only one you want, so you're really passionate about it and you're putting all your effort into the interview skills and the resume skills and everything like that. So for me, I only applied for one and I got the one that I wanted, so it all worked out great.
I can chime in next. So I applied at the end of my second year. I had heard about arts work experience earlier on in my degree, but I had just thought that it wasn't for me just because, again, I didn't fully have the confidence, but also I think kind of touching on the last question, I was a bit hesitant to extend my degree. But I think like after the realization that like a big realization for me was by like doing a work term in the middle of your degree, you still have kind of like that social safety net, I guess, that you have as a student. So like Joanna was talking about, you get a lot more grace in those positions. You get kind of like mentored more. And also you just have so many more benefits. Like you still get like student discounts and access to university services and things like that. So I think it's a great opportunity to do a work term like in the middle of your degree when you still have all those supports and access to that. And so like extending your degree to do one during your degree rather than doing 4 years of your degree and then doing a work term after, it might be a little bit harder to find or like more expectations put on you. You might kind of end up committing the same amount of time, if that makes sense. So extending your degree might not necessarily actually look like an extension of time. I don't know if that really made sense. Yeah, I applied in my second year. I applied to 2 positions at the same time, and I was lucky enough to get one of them. But yeah, I know for other people, you apply for quite a few before you actually get one. So it really just depends, yeah, on what you're applying to and on how much you take advantage of the resources applied to you.
I'll go ahead and chime in. In terms of when I applied for arts work experience, I was accepted into the program at the beginning of my 3rd year. So extending my degree wasn't a consideration that I had because I knew that I'd be able to finish the program within the time that I had to finish the rest of my degree. But if you are in a situation where you're near the end of your degree and you want to apply into the program, I'd say go right ahead. At the end of the day, you know, we're at university to gain skills and experience so that we might be able to find employment and so that we might be able to support ourselves one day. So this is always going to be something that is valuable, making those connections and getting those positions, getting that experience. And just to touch on, I lost my train of thought there. The next question that Joanna had asked us to touch on, I lost my train of thought, so I'm gonna let somebody else chime in.
I'll speak from my experience. So one of my first events that I did attend as a freshman in uni was arts work experience. And so I knew that I couldn't apply until after my first year. So second I was approved for my 30 credits, I applied for arts work experience because I was super anxious. There's the stereotype of arts work experiences graduating and never getting a job and forever working at Starbucks. My work experiences have given me the confidence that I will not need to. Like Emma said, she doesn't see herself working at a coffee shop. I don't see myself either. I have now connections within the government that will make it super easy for me to email them, say, hey, I want a job. And they'll be like, I'll work hard to do something for that, because on their side, it's actually so much easier for them to hire former students than it is to hire just a random person off the streets. It's a lot more work to do that when we just walk in through the back door. And I also want to give a tip that I don't know if anyone else knows, but you're also eligible for grants to pay for the fees for arts work experience. I ended up applying every semester of my co-op for the the Canadian full-time student loan grant because I'm eligible for that. It's $1,500. You don't have to pay it back. And I used all of that money towards arts work experience applications and a little more for pocket money.
I'm just gonna hop back in. I remember what I was gonna be talking about. So basically just in terms of applying for jobs and how many I applied to. I applied to a couple, maybe 2 or 3. For my first work placement, it was one of the ones that was provided by the Arts Work Experience department. But I also want to give this information out for anyone that might be wondering. For my second work placement, being a political science student, I noticed that there weren't at that time. That's changed now, but at that time, there weren't many government-related positions that were available. And so I actually went out on my own and I sourced my position with the federal government at the CBSA out myself, and I applied for it. I was able to get the job. And then I spoke with my work coordinator, and we were able to, she approved the position to be used in the Arts Work Experience program, and we were able to do all the modules and everything else that would have been done with an Arts Work Experience position with this position that I had found. So I just want everybody to know that if you're taking a look at the job listings and there's something there, you don't see something that interests you, you're more than welcome to go ahead and source a job out yourself. You just have to get it approved by your work term coordinator, and you can go ahead and work there as well. So.
I don't know if I have a ton to add that Jocelynn and Zack didn't already say. You two touched on some pretty good points. I was searching on my computer for the little clapping reaction, but I couldn't find it, so good job. I think I applied for AWE in my second or third year. I applied to a few different jobs, and I think that the job that I got with the Faculty of Arts was the second job that I applied for. And then when I completed that position, I ended up applying for about 5 or 6 when it was right as COVID kind of struck and everything shut down. But it's nice because I had the resources to have people help me look over my resume. I know Joanna actually looked over my resume when I was working for the Faculty of Arts. But it's nice to have that support as well. And I think kind of having people, especially during the pandemic, have people look over my resume, and, you know, it's good to kind of experience that like rejection within a safe environment as well, and have people kind of be like, okay, well, that's, you know, to take that as a learning experience rather than a failure. So I think that was really valuable for me as well. And I did end up finding a position during the pandemic, but you're not always going to get the first position that you apply for, but you will always have support if you don't get that position, and support to help you find something that interests you. So, yeah.
All right, we've got a number. We're starting to get pretty low on time. We've got a number of questions in the chat. So, Nathaniel, I'm going to get you to throw in a few email addresses where people can contact for more information. So if you have specific questions about arts work experience, community service learning, or studying abroad, there's specific email addresses that you can send an email to. And I know, like, right now, there's probably so many people that are like, I've emailed and I haven't gotten an answer. And, you know, it is crazy busy, but do send emails. People do want to help you. And we'll try to get to all of the questions, but in case we don't get to them, please do follow up. To Emma's point there, if you want to do something, you have to reach out and ask for help. And so what I would say, there's a few questions about, you know, like, what experiences are out there, or how do I do this, or, you know, is this possible in the program that I'm in, and how is this going to work? And so all I would say there is, start the process early. Start talking to your department undergrad advisor, talk to a faculty undergrad advisor, talk to a work placement coordinator. Just start conversations and say, like, even if you're not sure exactly where you want to go or do or anything, or if you're like, hey, I want to study abroad, but like, what's even out there? I don't know what country I want to go to. I have no idea what kind of experience I want to get. Start talking to somebody who knows these answers, and they'll ask you questions that will get you thinking in a way that helps you narrow things down. And in terms of work experience, start talking early, because as some of the people have already answered, that, you know, right off the bat, you might not see a job posting that interests you. And then, you know, or you apply and it's like, oh my gosh, I have 3 days to apply for this perfect job, and because the job posting closes. Because what happens is when the employers are posting terms, they have their needs to be met. So their job placements can start January, May, or September. So depending on where you want to come in, and in some positions, when we first posted our position, Emma worked for us for 9 months, but then the next time we posted it, we were able to post it as a 12-month position. So the employers that are participating in the program, they have their needs, their positions change, their placement times change. And in response to COVID, it's a whole new normal out there for everything. So in terms of work experience, in terms of community service placements, in terms of studying abroad, everything's a little bit up in the air, and there's a lot of people trying to figure out what that's going to look like. But do know, everybody on all sides of the coin want to make sure that these experiences continue and continue to be extremely valuable to students. So unfortunately, right now, the short answer for study abroad is that everything's on hold. Decisions around winter term, spring term, summer term, and then into next year, those decisions will be starting to be made fairly soon. But for the time being, it's kind of up in the air. In terms of arts work experience, to be honest, there are less postings right now. But as companies adjust to their new normal and they're finding new positions and new needs, new positions are being created. So it just means things have changed. It doesn't necessarily mean they're less or worse off or better off. They're just different. Taylor, since you've been the one to do some studying abroad, I'm gonna get you to answer, where did the questions go here? Do you have to apply to study abroad? Is it based on your grades? Can just anybody go? And what about tuition? Can you talk about that, sort of like what the cost is, and especially the difference between going to Cortona versus some of our other study abroad experiences?
For sure. So with studying abroad, you do have to apply. You can go onto either the Go Abroad UAlberta website, where you would just submit like a normal application. The U of A needs to know that you plan on going abroad and that you plan on taking courses outside of the U of A. So you do have to submit an application. Applications vary depending on the program that you apply to, so you'll just have to look into it. With GPA, I don't want to say what the GPA is because I'm not sure what it is, but normally there is a minimum GPA that you need to meet. Like for example, you need to meet about a 2.7, which is an average of a B-. So as long as you can maintain whatever the indicated GPA is for that program, you'll be eligible to pursue it. But sometimes there are some GPA regulations to make sure that you're a strong student, you're able to excel in your coursework in Canada. So now you can start pursuing opportunities that are going to put you in a bit of a different situation and might stress you out a bit more. So they want to make sure that you can obviously handle whatever happens, right? Whatever your opportunity is. With tuition, with Cortona, it's U of A tuition, so you're not paying any other university. You just pay your tuition as normal. I believe international students pay the exact same fee as domestic students for Cortona, not for all programs, but for Cortona specifically. So if you are an international student and you don't want to, you kind of want to save a bit on tuition costs, you might want to look into the Cortona program just because we have that fee that's the same for all students. With scholarships, I know you didn't ask this, Joanna, but with scholarships, there's tons of scholarships out there. You can just go visit the Go Abroad U of A website. Normally there is a individual award. I think the individual award is about $1,250. And as long as you kind of meet the conditions, I think you have to write a little bit about why you're interested in pursuing this. You'll receive that grant, and you can put that towards flight money or accommodations or whichever. A lot of unique programs will have their own unique scholarships. So for example, if you want to go to Harbin, China, I know obviously we're not doing this right now, but in Harbin, we have a specific U of A program that only certain scholarships are available for students that are pursuing that. So If you do want to save a bit more on money, it might be wise to look at programs that have specific scholarships out there that only you're available for, so that you can kind of rake in as much scholarship money that you don't have to worry too much about meeting the tuition costs and the funds.
All right, we're kind of wrapping up. And so what I would just reiterate is if we didn't get to somebody's question, please do send an email to arts.undergrad@ualberta.ca and we'll make sure to direct your email to the best person to give you an answer. Especially there's a couple questions here about international students and arts work experience. I don't want to give the wrong answer at all. So what we'll do is we'll connect you with the arts work experience placement coordinator and work out all those details that way. So basically, I don't know, we've got a few minutes. I think we've got enough time to go past everybody one more time, but just what are your sort of words of wisdom about, participating in CSL, arts work experience, studying abroad? What's something that hasn't been said yet, or that, I don't know, just something that will help people frame what they could make their university experience be like. These are all, incoming new students that are listening to us today. So I don't know, what would you tell your first year self? So why don't we start with Nathaniel, then Brie, then Zach, Emma, Jocelynn, and we'll end with Taylor.
Where to start? But I think one thing I would tell myself is that university is an experience and is more than just a classroom education. So, and also I would tell myself not to be afraid to kind of step outside of what's my major. Like right now I'm a political science and econ double major, but I'm doing student recruitment and engagement. So I would say don't be afraid to go outside of your comfort zone or the quote unquote box. So take on different experiences. And even though they may not directly apply to your major, you may use the skills that you've learned from that experience to your major. And it also builds experience in the sense that if you're, most jobs outside of post-graduation require some experience. And how do you get experience without, and if you can't find a job? So I think now in university is a time to take a work experience term, go abroad, do something to distinguish yourself and say that you have lived experience before you go out and head into the working world.
I think my advice would be that I think especially during the course of your degree, and I think more so true this year than ever, it can be really easy to just kind of go through your degree, just taking your classes, doing the minimums, and just coming out on the other side. And I think finding opportunities just enriches your degree so much. And I think it's really wise to just find out about things early on. So even if you don't think you have the capacity to do a work term, to do a CSL course, and to do a study abroad, like even if you think you can't do them all, find out about them all and figure out which ones sound appealing, which ones sound financially attainable for you, and just taking advantage of all the resources and opportunities available to you, I think is really wise. One thing I will mention is that Arts Work Experience specifically typically holds an information session in September. So I believe they're doing that again this year. It should be coming up. So check Arts like social media and the newsletters just to find out more. And for myself, as I said, I heard about awe early on and I thought initially, that's not for me. And then later on, I remembered, hey, I've heard about that program. I think I'm going to take advantage of it now. So finding that knowledge early on rather than getting to your fourth year and feeling like, oh my goodness, there's all these amazing things that I just found out about. Now I don't have the time to do them anymore. Be proactive and get a start on it early.
Yeah, so I'll chime in here a little bit more information. Nathaniel and Brie brought up great points. But just before I do see one question in the Q&A. Somebody asked that they're starting a political science major and if there are any range or work responsibilities that are expected of them. Just to reiterate quickly, there are no requirements to enter into the Arts Work Experience program other than those that have been posted by Nathaniel in the chat. So 2.3 GPA and a certain amount of credits. So you can hop onto the link over there to get a little bit more information about that. But then just to sum up, yeah, absolutely, this is your degree and you can take advantage of it. One thing that the University of Alberta does well is offering so many different programs and so many different opportunities that you can take advantage of while you finish your degree. And all of these opportunities are just here to help you success-wise. So when you leave the school, you have more tools in your toolkit so that you can be successful down the road. So I would say definitely if you're interested in taking part in Arts Work Experience, keep it in your mind, make sure that you meet the minimum GPA, apply, talk to the work coordinators. They're very nice. You're going to get a lot of information. One thing I didn't mention earlier was the Career Center and how you can get help with your resume, you can get help with interview skills. Basically, they've got you covered. You're going to be able to ace that interview. If you've never done one before, you don't have to feel worried. You can go over to the Career Center and have some training in that regard. You can have somebody look at your resume. So you're pretty much set to go if this is going to be your first job or something like that. And yeah, there's only benefits there. So I'd say definitely take advantage of it. And I'll leave it at that.
To go off what Zach said, university is expensive, but that is because you are offered resources like AWE and because you have access to practice interviews and resume review and the huge job board and CSL courses. And I don't think enough students take advantage of that. So I think unfortunately, if you decide to go abroad or you decide to enroll in AWE or you decide to take CSL courses, you might be one of the few students that do that. And that could distinguish you from others when you graduate. I also think something that I learned in AWE that was really valuable for me were just all of the sorts of opportunities that are available to art students. Because I think that when you're growing up, you hear, you know, someone can be like a doctor, someone can be like a chemist, or someone can be a writer, but you don't necessarily have to fall into one of those boxes. Just because you get a history degree doesn't mean that you have to be a historian. There are a whole bunch of jobs where having knowledge of history could be advantageous. That could be like in the government, for example. There are lots of positions in communications where that could be valuable. There are lots of transferable skills in arts that are applicable to a huge variety of jobs that you might not really think are important, but that are necessary for organizations, for example, like the U of A, that they need student recruiters. So that was my job. I got to go out and talk to high school students. And that's not a job that you think when you're a little kid, oh, I want to grow up to be a student recruiter, but those are jobs that are really important. So don't worry about finding a job. Might just expose you to all of the sorts of positions that are available and that you would probably be very good at. So yeah.
I see that we're running out of time, so a quick talk fast. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That goes for everything. You apply yourself to everything you have. Apply to as many jobs that you're interested in. If you do work terms or even in CSLs, see if you don't know how to do something, say, I don't know what to do, but could you show me? It's been really successful for me in my work terms. I highly recommend co-op. It's, like I said, it's given me so much confidence. After my one work term, I went up, I think it was I went from a B- average to an A, just because of my writing skills, my critical thinking improved so much in my co-ops. And I also will graduate almost with 2 years of full-time relevant work experience just because of my co-op. I'm not sure if many other people could say that other than other co-op students. And also, if you're a Indigenous, Black, or a person of color, or gender diverse, do not be afraid to put that in your cover letter. Employers value diversity in their employment, and it can sometimes help you get that extra edge up. Thanks.
Do we still have time, Joanna? Okay. I think everyone talked about really great points. in talking to a younger version of myself a couple years back, I would say prioritize your mental health above like everything else, right? So university it's a big change, and it's important for you to prioritize your mental health, and it's important for you to go at the pace that you're comfortable at, which also talks about, you know, extending your degree. Like, you don't have to extend your degree with experiential learning, but you could extend your degree because you're realizing that, you know, the 5 course load is too much. For me, I also realized that, and by the end of my last year, I ended up taking 3 classes per semester, and I was hitting myself in the head for not doing it sooner, because it made everything so much easier because I was able to time manage properly. I was able to work my part-time jobs and still manage the course load and still manage my family relationships, my friend relationships, being active on campus with volunteer opportunities. And so really just prioritize your mental health, know when it might be too much for you, know when to extend. And if you ever need help with anything, just contact the Undergraduate Student Services Office. We're more than happy to tell you about, you know, maybe our own personal experiences with something, or to just try and guide you in the right direction. We want all of our students to succeed as best as they can. And if that means extending your degree by a bit, taking a couple spring and summer terms to offset the winter fall terms, then that's what you got to do, right? Make your university experience unique to you, and go at the pace that's going to make you succeed.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We have met our time limit, so be sure to tune in to the rest of the live sessions this week. We have an Ask Me Anything panel first thing in the morning tomorrow. We have another student panel Wednesday afternoon that is an Ask Me Anything panel. And then Thursday, speaking of mental health, I'm going to be sitting down with psychologist Simon Varghese, and we're going to have a conversation about student mental health and wellness and taking care of yourself, and how to access resources here on campus to make sure that you or maybe your friends are getting the care that they need. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Please do send your emails to arts.undergrad@ualberta.ca. And as Brie mentioned before, read that student newsletter, because this is the place where you are going to find out about all sorts of opportunities for experiential learning. You're going to find out about grants, about job postings, stuff happening just for fun. So thanks again, and we'll see you again later this week. Bye, everyone.